Ladies and gentlemen, most people spend a lifetime trying to look strong, but very few ever learn the courage it takes to be real. We grow up being told things like, don't cry, don't show weakness, don't let anyone see what hurts, so we build walls. We protect ourselves with silence, perfection, and distance, and for a while it works. But eventually, we learn a simple truth. Walls don't just keep pain out, they keep love out too. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or exposing your life. It is about choosing courage over comfort. Choosing to show up when you can't control the outcome. Choosing to let someone see the parts of you that aren't polished. Strength is not the armor. Strength is the hand that removes the armor. Vulnerability becomes strength the moment we stop pretending. When we say, I'm struggling, and discover someone else whispering, me too. When we ask for help and realize it doesn't make us weak, it makes us human. When we share our story and someone feels less alone because of it. If you want deeper relationships, be real. If you want confidence, be honest about your fear. If you want peace, stop pretending you're unbreakable. Because vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength. It is the doorway to it. And when you walk through that doorway, you don't just become stronger, you give others permission to be strong too. That's how vulnerability becomes power. Not by exposing weakness, but by unleashing courage. 1, vulnerability is courage in disguise. True bravery begins when you step forward without guarantees. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting even while fear exists. Every honest conversation, every risk you take, every moment of truth is a declaration, I am brave enough to be seen. 2, pretending to be strong creates isolation. Masks protect you, but they also disconnect you. The more you hide your struggles, the more alone you feel. Not because no one cares, but because no one knows you need them. 3, connection thrives on honesty, not perfection. People don't bond over flawless lives. They bond over shared humanity. Your imperfections create bridges. Your truths create trust, and your courage creates deeper relationships. 4, asking for help is a power move. It takes strength to lift others, but a different kind of strength to say, hey, I need lifting too. When you allow support, you multiply resilience. 5, vulnerability turns pain into purpose. Sharing your story doesn't weaken you. It transforms past wounds into present wisdom. Someone out there needs the lesson you learned the hard way. 6, authenticity makes you unshakable. When you stop performing and start being real, you become grounded, confident, and emotionally strong. Nothing is harder to break than a person who has accepted themselves fully. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's emotional courage. We grow up in a world that trains us to believe that vulnerability is a flaw, a crack, a softness that makes us easy to break. We hear phrases like, don't let them see you cry, stay strong, or never show your feelings. The message is subtle but powerful: protect yourself at all costs. Build armor. Don't let anyone close enough to hurt you. But what if everything we've been taught is upside down? What if vulnerability is not weakness at all, but the purest form of emotional courage? Think about the moments in life that truly mattered, the moments that shaped you, challenged you, or transformed you. Almost every one of those moments required you to take a risk, to open up, to show a part of yourself that wasn't polished or perfect. That is vulnerability, and choosing it is one of the bravest decisions a person can make. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we step into a space where we can experience real connection. Not the surface level kind, but the kind that builds trust, strengthens relationships, and allows us to be fully seen. It takes courage to say, I need help. It takes courage to say, I'm hurting. It takes courage to admit, I don't know the answer, or I made a mistake. None of those confessions are weaknesses. They are human. They are real, and they are powerful. Vulnerability also creates room for growth. When we hide behind perfection, we don't evolve, we freeze. We remain stuck in the image of who we think we're supposed to be. But vulnerability breaks that image. It forces us to confront the truth and learn from it. It allows us to step out of performance mode and into authenticity, and authenticity is where confidence is born, not manufactured. There's a misconception that being vulnerable means oversharing or exposing every detail of your life. That isn't vulnerability, that's a lack of boundaries. True vulnerability is intentional. It's choosing courage over comfort. It's saying, this is scary, but it matters. It's opening the door just enough for growth to walk in. And here's the surprising part. When we embrace vulnerability, we become more resilient, not less, because vulnerability teaches us to feel instead of avoid, to rise instead of shut down, to reconnect instead of retreat. When you learn that you can survive emotional exposure, you become stronger than you ever imagined. The world teaches us to be hard. But strength is not hardness. Strength is staying open when you have every reason to close. Strength is loving again after being hurt. Strength is standing in your truth even when your voice shakes. Strength is allowing yourself to be human. When you choose vulnerability, you aren't breaking, you're becoming. And that transformation, raw, real, and courageous, is what turns vulnerability into strength. 2, vulnerability opens the door to real connection. We often talk about connection as if it's something we can build with strategy, charm, or confidence. But real connection, the kind that makes us feel seen, safe, and accepted, doesn't come from polishing our image. It isn't born from perfection, performance, or pretending. Real connection grows in the spaces where we allow others to witness who we truly are, even when that truth feels fragile. Vulnerability is the moment when we stop performing and start being. It's when we allow ourselves to be known not because we're flawless, but because we're honest. Think about the last time you felt deeply connected to someone. Chances are the moment was simple, a confession of fear, a shared insecurity, a conversation where both of you allowed your guard to soften. That softness is not weakness. It is the birthplace of closeness. When we hide our emotions, our battles, or our imperfections, we create distance. We may think we're protecting ourselves from judgment or rejection, but what we're really doing is blocking intimacy. We can't ask someone to truly know us while we're busy hiding. And so many people live behind walls without realizing the cost: loneliness, emotional exhaustion, or relationships that feel shallow because they never touch the deeper layers of who we are. Vulnerability changes that. It's the quiet courage of saying, this is me, even the parts I'm still learning to love. It invites the other person to do the same, to open, to share, to breathe. Suddenly, the conversation becomes more than words. It becomes a meeting of hearts. Of course, vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or exposing your soul to everyone. It's not about dramatic confession or emotional dumping. Instead, it is intentional, thoughtful openness with people who have earned the right to hear your story. It is choosing authenticity over performance. It is giving someone a glimpse of your inner world so the relationship can deepen. When we show vulnerability, we signal trust, and trust is magnetic. It makes others lean in, not pull away. People feel honored when we choose to be real with them. They feel braver in our presence because our honesty gives them permission to stop hiding too. That's how vulnerability becomes contagious. And that is how connection becomes real. The beauty of vulnerability is that it transforms relationships from transactional to emotional, from polite to meaningful, from surface level to soul deep. It turns moments into memories and acquaintances into allies. When we allow our true selves to be seen, we create relationships that can withstand conflict, misunderstanding, and change. Because they are built on truth, not illusion. In the end, connection thrives not because we're perfect, but because we're willing to be imperfect together. Vulnerability is what turns strangers into friends, partners into teammates, and conversations into healing. It is not a risk without reward. It is the pathway to the relationships we crave and the emotional closeness we all deserve. 3, vulnerability deepens connection. One of the biggest misunderstandings we carry is the belief that people will only accept us when we're polished, perfect, and confidently put together. We grow up learning to tuck away our fears, hide our insecurities, and present the highlight reel of our lives. But beneath all of that effort lies a quiet truth we rarely acknowledge. Connection doesn't grow in the presence of perfection. It grows in the presence of honesty. Think about the moments when you felt closest to someone. Was it when they impressed you with how flawless they were? Or was it when they trusted you enough to let you into their struggle, their confusion, their doubt, or their truth? Every meaningful relationship in your life has one thing in common: someone went first. Someone risked being seen. That's what vulnerability actually is, an invitation. When you open a door to your real self, you give people a chance to meet you where you truly are. You allow connection to grow at a human level, not a performance level. And the people who are meant to walk with you, support you, or love you, they respond to that openness with their own. Vulnerability deepens connection because it creates a bridge between our experiences. You talk about your fear of not being enough, and suddenly the person in front of you feels less alone. You share that you failed, and someone else finally realizes they're not the only one who has fallen. You express your grief, and a friend discovers the courage to face their own. This mutual recognition, this me too moment, is where real belonging starts. We spend so much time trying to impress people when, in reality, what people crave most is realness. The world is full of noise, filters, and curated identities. What cuts through all of that is truth. There is nothing more disarming than someone who says, "Here I am as I am." There is nothing more comforting than someone who listens and responds, "I see you, and I'm still here." But vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or bleeding your emotions onto everyone you meet. It's not about telling your story to those who haven't earned the right to hear it. It's about choosing honesty over image, connection over protection, and presence over performance. It's about allowing the people who matter to truly know you instead of guessing who you really are behind all the layers you hide. And here's the beautiful part. When you choose vulnerability, you give others permission to do the same. Your courage becomes contagious. Your openness becomes a safe space. Your honesty becomes an anchor for someone who's been drifting inside their own silence. When vulnerability shows up, walls come down. When walls come down, understanding rises. And where understanding rises, connection becomes unbreakable, because in the end, we don't bond over perfection. We bond over humanity. And vulnerability is how we access that humanity together. For vulnerability deepens connection. We live in a world where everyone is trying to look strong, polished, and unshakable. Social media rewards perfection, workplaces reward certainty, and relationships often reward the quieter, safer versions of ourselves. Yet, in the middle of all this performance, we are starving for something real. Humans don't bond over perfection, we bond over truth. And vulnerability, the willingness to be seen as we are, is the bridge that reconnects us to each other. Think about the moments in your life when you felt truly connected to someone. They weren't the moments when everything was smooth or impressive. Connection happens in the cracks. Those moments when someone says, "I'm struggling," or "I'm scared," or "I don't know what's next." Something inside us softens when we hear the truth. We recognize it because we carry the same truth. Vulnerability creates a shared emotional space where defenses fall away and understanding rises. But here's the challenge: vulnerability feels risky. We fear judgment, rejection, or being misunderstood. We imagine that if people see our softer side, they'll think less of us. So we hide behind humor, arrogance, business, or silence. We protect ourselves, but in doing so, we disconnect ourselves. Real connection requires courage, the courage to say, "Here I am, not perfect, not finished, but real." And when we take that step, we give others permission to do the same. Imagine two people in a conversation. One is sharing only the highlight reel, the polished surface. The other is silently drowning in their own emotions, afraid to speak up. There is no connection there, only an exchange of masks. But when even one person chooses truth over perfection, something shifts. One brave moment opens the door for another. In relationships, friendships, family, love, vulnerability is the thread that stitches two hearts together. Without it, you may share a house, a table, even a life, but not truly share yourselves. Couples grow distant not because they stop loving each other, but because they stop opening up. Parents lose emotional closeness with their children when they trade authenticity for authority. Friends drift apart because no one dared to say, "I need you," or "I miss you," or "I'm hurting." Connection thrives on honesty, not performance. Even in leadership, vulnerability is transformative. A leader who admits uncertainty creates space for collaboration. A mentor who shares their failures empowers others to keep going. A team that talks openly about fears builds trust faster than a team that pretends everything is always under control. The truth is simple: when you hide your vulnerability, you hide your humanity. And when you hide your humanity, you lose the chance to connect in the ways that matter most. Vulnerability doesn't guarantee that everyone will respond with acceptance, but it guarantees that the ones who truly belong in your life will find their way to you. Because real connection cannot exist without real presence. When we choose to show our true selves, we stop performing and start belonging. And belonging is one of the greatest strengths the human heart can carry. 5, vulnerability deepens trust and strengthens relationships. Trust is often seen as something built through confidence, consistency, and reliability. And while that's true, there's another powerful ingredient we rarely acknowledge: vulnerability. Many people assume that to build trust, we must show only our strongest, most polished version of ourselves. But the truth is that trust doesn't grow from perfection. It grows from honesty. When we allow someone to witness our real emotions, our struggles, and even our uncertainties, we create an environment where genuine connection becomes possible. Vulnerability deepens trust because it signals something profound. I am giving you access to a part of me that I don't show to everyone. That level of openness quietly tells the other person, I trust you enough to let you see me, not just the image of me. And when that trust is reciprocated, a powerful bond forms, one that can withstand conflicts, misunderstandings, and challenges. In relationships of all kinds, romantic relationships, friendships, family connections, even professional environments, vulnerability acts like emotional truth-telling. It sets aside the masks. When we communicate honestly about what we feel, what we fear, what we hope for, or what we need, we invite the other person to step into authenticity as well. This shared authenticity becomes the foundation for mutual respect. It creates conversations where both people feel heard, valued, and safe. But here's something most people underestimate. Vulnerability is not the same as emotional dumping or overwhelming someone with raw feelings. It's not recklessness. Vulnerability is intentional and grounded. It means speaking from clarity rather than chaos. It means saying, this is what's really going on for me, while still respecting your own boundaries and the emotional space of the other person. That balance is what makes it powerful rather than draining. Think about the moments in your life when trust broke. Often, it wasn't because someone was too vulnerable. It was because they weren't vulnerable enough. Maybe they hid the truth. Maybe they shut down instead of expressing what they felt. Maybe they built walls instead of bridges. Avoidance, silence, and emotional distance are what weaken relationships, not vulnerability. Now consider the opposite. Think about the moments when someone shared something personal with you, a fear, a disappointment, a dream, and how it made you feel about them. You likely felt closer to them, more connected, more understanding. You may even have felt honored. That's the magic of vulnerability. It turns ordinary conversations into meaningful ones and ordinary relationships into safe spaces. When we choose vulnerability, we choose to build trust that is rooted in truth, not illusion. We choose to create relationships that aren't just functional, but emotionally rich. We choose to replace fear with courage, distance with connection, and guessing with clear communication. The strength of a relationship is not measured by how conflict-free it is. It is measured by how open, honest, and emotionally brave the people in it are willing to be. Vulnerability is the doorway to that bravery. It invites deeper connection, richer trust, and a sense of emotional safety that no fast aid can ever provide. 6, vulnerability builds unbreakable human connection. We often underestimate how deeply human beings long to be understood. Not admired, not impressed, not amazed, understood. And there is only one door that leads to that level of understanding: vulnerability. It is the only bridge that takes us from I'm fine to here is who I really am. And ironically, the moment we step onto that bridge, everything about our relationships begins to change. Think about the people you feel closest to in your life. They're not the ones who have never made mistakes or never felt fear or never cried. They're the ones who let you see them. Their truth, their imperfections, their doubts, their humanity, and in return, you felt safe enough to open up to. That safety, that mutual openness is connection. And connection is one of the strongest emotional experiences humans can have. Vulnerability invites honesty, and honesty invites closeness. When you share a struggle, you aren't just giving information, you're giving someone the opportunity to walk toward you instead of away from you. You're saying, here is my truth. If you want to meet me here, we can build something real. And more often than not, people will surprise you with their ability to empathize, support, and care. One of the greatest myths is believing we must present a polished version of ourselves to be loved. But real love, whether romantic, familial, or friendship, can only grow in the presence of truth. You cannot be truly loved for who you are if no one is allowed to see who you are. Vulnerability removes the mask, and with it removes the barriers to real intimacy. But let's be clear, vulnerability is not about oversharing or pouring out every detail of your life. It is about intentional honesty. It's about saying, this is what I'm navigating right now, instead of pretending everything is perfect. It's about admitting you're hurt instead of turning pain into anger. It's about telling someone why you pulled away instead of disappearing without explanation. Vulnerability is the doorway through which healthy communication enters. Every meaningful relationship in your life, past, present, and future, depends on your willingness to be open. Walls may protect you, but they also isolate you. Vulnerability feels risky, yes, but isolation is far riskier. Isolation becomes loneliness. Loneliness becomes resentment, and resentment becomes disconnection. Vulnerability is the antidote. When you choose vulnerability, you're choosing closeness over perfection, truth over image, connection over avoidance. You're saying, I am willing to show up as myself, even if it scares me. And when you do that, the connections you build are stronger than anything built on performance. In a world that encourages filters, edits, and performance's vulnerability becomes an act of courage. And that courage becomes magnetic. People are drawn to those who are real, open, imperfect, and genuine. Because in the end, vulnerability doesn't push people away. It calls the right ones closer. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want you to pause and notice something important. You are not the same person who began listening. You've walked through stories of courage, reminders of worthiness, and the truth about what it means to open your heart even when it feels risky. Vulnerability is not a finish line. It's a path, one we choose again and again, even when we're afraid. And in choosing that path, we begin to see that our most uncomfortable moments are often the birthplace of our greatest personal breakthroughs. Strength doesn't emerge from pretending. It emerges from allowing ourselves to be seen exactly as we are. When we dare to express our truth, whether through admitting fear, asking for help, or acknowledging our imperfections, we create the conditions for growth. We stop hiding behind masks that were never meant to fit us, and we step into a version of ourselves that feels more honest and whole. Vulnerability invites authenticity, and authenticity builds resilience. You become stronger not because you avoid pain, but because you walk through it with awareness, compassion, and courage. Every time you choose honesty over hiding, you are building the emotional muscle that transforms your life from the inside out. You now understand that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the birthplace of connection, creativity, and true confidence. When you allow yourself to be fully present with your emotions, you unlock a power that fear can never imitate. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You begin to see others more clearly. And you create space for relationships that nurture your soul instead of draining it. Strength built on vulnerability does not crumble when life tests it. Instead, it bends, adapts, and eventually rises stronger than before. This is the kind of strength that lasts. So as you move back into your daily life, I want you to carry one message in your heart. You are allowed to be both courageous and afraid. You are allowed to feel deeply and still move forward. You are allowed to show the world your cracks, because they're the same cracks that let your light through. There will be days when vulnerability feels too heavy, too messy, or too risky. But remember, every person you admire, every story of bravery you've ever heard, every transformation you look up to began with someone saying, this is me. This is what I feel. This is what I fear, and I'm still here. My hope is that today marks a turning point for you, a moment where you stop running from your emotions and start honoring them. A moment where you stop hiding from your humanity and start embracing it. Vulnerability will not always be comfortable, but it will always be worth it. Let it shape you, strengthen you, and lead you toward a life that is more grounded, more connected, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Because the truth is simple, the bravest thing you can ever do is allow yourself to be seen. Thank you and goodbye note. Thank you for giving your time, your attention, and your heart to this message. Your willingness to explore vulnerability is already a sign of your inner strength. I hope these words stay with you long after this moment ends. Until we meet again, continue choosing courage, continue choosing truth, and continue showing up for yourself. Thank you, and goodbye. Stay brave, stay open, and keep shining.